Hi guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia, I'm coming to you from the UK, and today is Saturday the 12th of August 2023. I am so glad you're joining me today to talk about some yarn and some knitting, and also there will be a fair amount of crochet, so I hope you're ready for that. If you're watching for the first time, then welcome. I really hope that you'll enjoy this podcast, and if you're coming back as ever, thank you so much for being a regular viewer of this podcast. So let's get into the knitting. Let's not waste any time talking about anything else. It's been 2 weeks since I last recorded an episode because we had a visitor here last weekend, and I sort of promised that I would have a lot of content hopefully because I'll have lots of time to work on things, and I have. But also I feel like I haven't really made that much progress, which is really strange, but we'll get into it. Before we do, I did want to show off again my cardigan. This is my sort of improv cardigan that I knit out of Rowan felted tweed. And the reason why I wanted to show it again was because I finally did block it after accidentally telling you I had blocked it when I hadn't and so on. This is now blocked, and you guys, I finally get the hype about this yarn. It is beautiful. It is absolutely stunning. Not sure if you can tell, this cardigan has turned out quite oversized, which was what I was going for. Like, I think this is just gonna be, you know, it's gonna fit over everything. I like that the arms are they're really long, but they're also quite tight. So I think by having sort of skinny arms, it doesn't look like I'm just wearing someone else's too big sweater. And yeah, the drape of this since blocking it is just so beautiful. So I thought I'd show it to you really quickly because I think last time maybe I put it on, maybe I didn't. It definitely didn't have buttons, although I feel like I could have done a better job with blocking out the button bands. For some reason I think I should have like buttoned it before blocking, and I didn't. So yeah, but this is my Rowan felted tweed cardigan. I mentioned many times in the past couple of episodes how I sort of went about it. Essentially, I just used a raglan pattern that I had in my library. In my case, I used the Petite Knit No Frill sweater, but I added a steek and created a steek garment, and essentially did my own sort of jiggling with the raglan increases and the body shaping, sleeve shaping, and so on. So it's just a plain sort of stockinette cardigan with a steek, and it has turned out perfectly, so I thought I'd show that to you very quickly. I have also blocked my, what's it called? My brioche shawl that I talked about for the last 3 months. I've blocked it, and that has also grown quite a bit, which is great, but it doesn't look very different in terms of showing it to you, so I've decided to not show that again today because I'm guessing you're as sick of that as I am. But this is so beautiful. This is a Rowan felted tweed in the colorway Duck Egg, which nothing you'll hear in this podcast is sponsored. These are just my own opinions and my own money that I'm spending. I bought this years and years ago, probably like 5-6 years ago. Almost destashed the yarn. I'm so glad I didn't because I love it, and I may have ordered some celebratory Rowan felted tweed, in fact, today after seeing it in John Lewis when we went out for a little trip earlier today and falling in love with a couple of colors. So there might be some more felted tweed in my future, especially, we're jumping straight into the knitting plans apparently today, especially you may or may not have seen that Stephen West has come out with a waffle collection, which I thought was quite affordable. For you get a ton of patterns. You get, I think, 2 shawls, a hat, a balaclava, a sweater pattern, a dog pattern, and I think something else, I can't remember. But I saw it and I thought I definitely want to knit the hat and the sweater, so I think I'm going to knit the waffle sweater by Stephen West out of this yarn in a sort of mustardy, but a bit more like a light yellow. It's not the typical mustard, it's like a light mustard. It's Rowan felted tweed color mineral, and I'm very excited about that. So that is hopefully going on the needles pretty soon. We'll see. So, having gone into knitting plans, let's talk about some finished objects, and I only have one that I can show you today, and I have finally finished these stupid socks. I don't know what it is about these projects. Let me know if you get the same thing. Sometimes a project just doesn't work for me, and there's no reason for it. Like, the yarn is beautiful, the socks are beautiful, there's no reason why I shouldn't be enjoying this project, but I just didn't enjoy the project at all. And I think over time I then got some sort of negative emotions attached to it as well, which is really stupid because these socks are beautiful. These are some helical socks, so they're just helical knitting, which means you're basically knitting one row stripes without getting any sort of jogs or color joins or anything like that. And if you do want to know more about helical knitting, just type it into Google or YouTube and you will find a million tutorials. I did a 2x2 rib and then basically knit a tube for each sock, and then actually I think yesterday I cut in my afterthought heels, and there they are. They are finally finished. I didn't make them super long because I realized throughout the first sock that I just wasn't really enjoying them. So, I mean, they're not short, but they're not crazy long. And the yarns that I used for this is Filcolana Arwetta in some kind of burgundy. And this is Schoppel Zauberball in the Garden Party colorway, which I think I used for another pair of socks about a year ago. So these are definitely sort of scrappy socks, and I am very happy that they are done, because I do love the look of them. I'm looking forward to wearing them, but they just never really felt right. There was something about them that I didn't enjoy. And I ended up taking them with me on a couple of trips. I went to London twice in the last 10 days or so. So I used them as travel knitting. I worked on these when I was on the phone, and I just tried to get through this in the end, and I almost abandoned them, which I never really abandoned projects. But yeah, I am glad I finished them, and I'm actually really excited to wear these. They just never felt right. So let me know if that happens to you too sometimes. I would be very curious. Sorry, I just adjusted the lighting slightly, which is interesting because we're having very British weather today. It's basically going from super sunny summer to, of course, when we were walking up the hill for 30 minutes, pouring it down and super sunny, and now it's really cloudy again. So hoping the light is okay, and we'll just press on. Yeah, I have a couple of works in progress. Very quickly, I'm still working on these self-strapping socks, which my husband gave me this yarn for my birthday, which was very lovely of him. I did send him the link to this shop, which is Fab Funky Fibers here in the UK, and I think she is quickly turning into my favorite self-strapping yarn dyer here in the UK. This is colorway Octavia, and if you've seen me use her yarns before previously, I was always using the 50-gram skeins. So I would do sort of contrasting heels, cuffs and toes. But for this one, I have two matching 50-gram skeins, so 100 grams in total. So I'm doing the entire sock strap, which I also think is very fun. And I just started the toe decreases earlier today. So yeah, just a standard sock. I do 64 stitches on 2.25mm needles. Yeah, I do the short row heel that I do if I do a short row heel is the shadow wrap heel, which Earth Tones Girl has a great tutorial for that, and I think she has a written pattern and like a couple of sock classes as well. So that's what I used. I used the Fish Lips Kiss heel for years and years, and I've just switched to this one because it's just one less step to do and you don't need a stitch marker, but it's not very different at all. Yeah, so that is my first sock, and I haven't really worked on these. I just picked them up today as I was again on the phone. So that is my Fab Funky Fibers sock. Next up, I have a bit of a sad story about my Islander. This is a pattern by Ellie of Scandia, and it's a really cool top-down construction. This sort of garment, there are different patterns for it because it seems to be a very sort of traditional Norwegian knitting colorwork pattern, but she's done this really cool construction which is top down using short rows, so it's seamless, and you basically cast it all on at the same time. It's a really cool construction. Just look into it if you're interested. And look, I have made some progress. So the body is currently on hold. I think I stopped when I had about 10 centimeters or 4 inches, around, more or less 4 inches of body to go, to then pick up the armhole steeks. So this sweater has 3 steeks. It has one for the neckline, which I've already done, and I then decided to do the steeks on the arms and knit a bit of the sleeves, because then it is much easier to try it on and get sort of the perfect length for it. Because otherwise, obviously, if you can't put your arms through the holes here, it's always really awkward, and it's gonna get sleeves anyway, so why not do that? So what I've done is I have done both steeks, I have secured them and all of that, and then I knit a fair amount on the sleeve, basically until my circular needle that I was using was getting a bit too short. So I knew I was going to have to find a different needle and change needles anyways. So I've decided to then just do the second sleeve and do it to the same point, and then I can always either finish the body first or finish the sleeve first, whatever I feel like. But then something very sad happened, because look, my little needle broke, which is not the end of the world. I'm not sure if it's the needle's fault or maybe someone did something. I mean, I do leave my projects around on the couch, so someone may have done something, I don't really know. But my needle is broken, and of course it was my 3.5mm tip, which is my favorite needle size, and I only have one of them, because I do have a couple of backup or spare tips, but not this one. So I have now for a week been trying to get a replacement, which isn't really working out, which is a bummer. So I contacted the place in the UK where I bought these from, and they're not replying. And I contacted Licker, and with Licker, you have a warranty, and I had a needle replaced by them in the past, like, it was a sock needle up maybe a year, probably 2 years ago, where I think you didn't have to send in the needle because they're in the US, but you could still fill in a form and get a replacement. But it seems now you have to send in the needle, which, I mean, I'm not gonna spend whatever it is, £20 or whatever, to send a broken needle all the way to the US, because that doesn't make any sense. So I've contacted them, but also haven't heard back from them, which is a shame. And I want to talk to someone first before I spend the money. I mean, I'll just buy a new tip. It's not the end of the world, but I haven't done so yet because I wanted to hear what they say first. So now this project is stalled, which is really sad. I do have another needle, which I think might have the same length and circumference. So I'm undecided whether I'm just going to change needles. I don't like changing needle brands and different sort of needles throughout a project, because the one I have that might work is a C-knit needle, which I think is a Japanese make. But I also don't want to stall on this project, because I feel like I finally got back into it, and ever since breaking my needle like a week ago, nothing has happened on this, so very sad. I mean, what I could do is, no, I can't. I was gonna say I could work on the body, but I can't, because these are interchangeable needles and I still need my 3.5mm tips. So yeah, that is very sad. But look, I feel like I'm finally getting there. Like, there is still a lot of knitting to go. Like, this is definitely a sort of labor intensive garment, being all over colorway, at work, fingering weight, all of that. But I have made some progress, so yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously I'm going to finish it one way or another. I just hope I can rectify my needle situation soon. Maybe I should just go ahead and buy the needle tip and be done with it. We'll see. The yarn that I'm using is New Lanark Spinning Mills. This is They're 4-ply, which I think they only sell in cones, and you don't get very much information, but it's beautiful. It's a cone. It is 2/8.4 nanometers, which is a 4-ply, in the colorway Limestone. And this is JC Rennie Smolder in their super soft base, which looks like a charcoaly black, but it's got these beautiful sort of tweedy bits in it, or like just like flecks of color, which are really, really, really subtle, and my camera is never going to show them, but believe me when I say it is very pretty. So that is my Eastlander sweater, which is now sadly somewhat on hold. But I have made progress on my peacock sweater by Lene Holme Samsø. Sorry, I stumble over this name every time. I should just look it up, but I feel like it's pronounced something like that. So this is the peacock sweater slash I am not making the peacock sweater. I am making the peacock tee into a sweater. But basically all of the peacock designs have this beautiful feather and fan, which I think once you block it is going to be even more stunning than it is now. So it's got this really, really pretty yoke. It is crinkled because it has been stuffed in a project bag. And yeah, I have made some progress on the body. So the stitch marker is where I was last time, so I've done maybe 6 inches, 15 centimeters at least since I last showed this to you. So yeah, I'm nowhere near finishing the body, but I'm also not that far off considering. But this is again, is it finger weight? Is it sport weight? I don't know. It's a relatively lightweight sweater, so it doesn't go super fast, but I'm very happy with the progress I've made, and this yarn is just beautiful. I love this yarn so much. This is the Fiber Company Amble in the Fair Hill colorway, and no, of course, I don't have a label with me, but I did show it to you in the past. It is a mix of, is it wool, alpaca, and recycled nylon? So theoretically, this could be used for socks, which I think they purposely made the sort of ethically slightly more responsible sock yarn. And I said in the past that I was really sad because I would love to use this for socks, but it's a little bit too fancy for me to buy as a sock yarn. But I have 4 skeins of this, and I'm still on the 2nd skein, and look how much I have left. So I'm starting to think I will be able to get through this entire sweater with 3 or maybe 3 and a bit of the 4 skeins. So I'm hoping now, I'm starting to hope that I can also make a pair of socks out of this yarn. Even if it's just a shorter pair, it would be really, really nice to get both a sweater and a pair of socks out of my beautiful amble yarn, which I got in a de-stash. And obviously that would also be great in terms of, you know, using every last bit of the yarn that I have. So yeah, we will see about that. And again, this looks very flat, but trust me when I say there are many sort of different shades of color in here, which again, it's really beautiful. I really enjoy this, and this is also very soft, I think. So yeah, that is my peacock sweater. And then I have this huge project which took up all of my time, and it is a crochet project. So if you're only here for the knitting, I totally get it. I will see you next week, but if you do want to stick around, I have been crocheting. Sorry about the change in lighting. We have such British weather today. It has changed from sunny to rainy to now it's raining and the sun is shining in like a million times today. And I'm also recording quite late in the day. It's about 5:30 p.m. So yeah, I had to change everything up, and I'm going to attempt to again and hope that the lighting just sort of stays the same. So my next project is my fireside blanket, which was 100% enabled by Danny of Little Bobbins, who I'm sure you know. She's a beautiful designer and maker and just a beautiful person. And basically anything she touches, I want to do the exact same. And she has been churning out all these beautiful blankets by Attic24, and so far I've sort of been watching from the sidelines. But when I saw her most recent one, which is this one, I just had to do the exact same thing because it is so beautiful. So this is the Fireside Blanket by Attic24, who, if you don't know, is a crochet designer who has a ton of free patterns, which is really, really great. And what you can do, at least if you're here in the UK, is you can order kits for her patterns from Wool Warehouse. So that's exactly what I did. I ordered the kit, which came with all the yarn. It's acrylic yarn. So I think I got 12 100-gram skeins or balls of the acrylic yarn, which is, what is it? Let's have a look. I don't actually know. I just know it's acrylic. And I am missing one page of my pattern, which of course has the picture, so I can't show you the picture. And I think it also has the yarn information. Yeah. I've planned this out really well, haven't I? Anyways, you can look it up, or maybe I'm really organized and I put it on the screen. But I got all this yarn in the kit as well as the printed pattern, and it was all around £35, which I thought was really impressive. And you may know that I don't typically like acrylic, but I'm starting to sort of see the point with these crochet blankets because in terms of costs, blankets are a big investment, and you may not want to sink, you know, £100, £150 of yarn into a blanket. And B, if you were going to use cotton for like a large blanket like this, it would get really, really heavy. But with the acrylic, it actually works quite well, and I think this is much nicer than the sort of acrylic that I still have and know from, you know, the acrylic that my grandma used to crochet with, yeah, maybe, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years ago, possibly. So yeah, I am using acrylic, which again is not really my usual choice, but I sort of get it. I wouldn't use it for garments, if I'm being honest, not because I'm a snob, but because I don't, in terms of like the shedding and, you know, what happens when you burn acrylics and so on, I personally wouldn't choose it, which is just me. It's just my personal preference. And I'm also quite happy to wash my woolens by hand and so on. But for this, I think if I manage to finish this may, you know, outlive me. Like, this could be a blanket that my son gives to his kids one day. Who knows? Like, this is gonna stay around forever. It's not going to get eaten by moths. Yeah, I'm really, really, really excited by this. So as you can tell, basically you have a couple of these small squares which have a circle in the center. So you have a circle and you turn it into a square. And then you have these bigger squares every now and then. And eventually it's going to have sort of a very long or very wide granny stripe border around it as well. And I've seen a couple of people who've made the border really, really thick, because obviously you might want to, I will definitely want to use up all the yarn in this project and make the blanket as big as I possibly can with the yarn that I have. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. So essentially I have been, first of all, crocheting all these tiny circles, which was a new technique to me. I think I crocheted, was it 79 or 73 of these? And now I'm just, you know, turning them into squares as I go, and then you join as you go. So you join them in the last round, basically, of your squares. You join them together. And the good thing is that I have learned how to weave in my ends as I go as well, like as I crochet. So there are no ends. The only ends that I've attached is the ones that I haven't yet crocheted over. But again, this is already woven in, and so in the end I just snip them off and it'll be done, because if I had to weave in all these ends, I would never finish this blanket. Like, it would just not happen. But yeah, this is really, really fun. I'm really enjoying doing something very different, and I feel like my crochet skills have now improved quite a lot, because I didn't used to be very good at crocheting from a written pattern, but now I feel like I can actually call myself a crocheter. Like, I don't know what you think, but I am very, very excited by this. And it's been really nice to work on something completely different, and it's pretty instant gratification, because you change colors all the time, and one of those little squares doesn't take very long to finish, especially now that I've memorized how to do everything, so I don't have to keep referring back to the pattern. So yeah, very, very excited about this blanket, and I'm planning to just, you know, get as far as I can before I lose motivation. Like, I don't want to have this around for ages and ages. Ideally, I would like to, you know, work on it and finish it and then move on to the next thing. So we'll see if that happens, but I am very, very excited about this. I'm using a 4mm crochet hook, and I've made myself this really fancy tool of keeping track of my colors. So I've seen other people have these fancy sort of wooden tools which look beautiful, but I didn't have one and I wanted to get started, so I used a piece of cardboard, and I've just written down the names of the colors, and I've attached a little bit of every color, so now I know what colors I need to use in which order, because some of them are quite similar. Like there are 2 blues and 2 greens that are very, very similar, so this has been really, really helpful. So yeah, that has been basically all my crafting for the last 2 weeks. Not a crazy amount, but the blanket took up a lot of my brain space. I think as soon as the yarn arrived, I didn't craft anything else for like 3, 4, 5 days. I was just making the little circles and then joining them together, and yeah, it's been quite fun. So if you're only here for the knitting, then thank you so much for watching today. And if you do want to stick around, I'm just going to talk about some ridiculous life stuff that's been happening here. So a lot of stuff is still going on behind the scenes, and I'm not going to go into all of that. I hope you understand. But I did want to mention, because I teased last time, that we are obviously still working on a house which we bought in February, and I feel like every time I turn around something else like breaks. It's ridiculous. But last weekend my husband's friend came to stay with us for 4.5 days, and basically all they did for 4 days was work on the house, which was really, really great, except it was also obviously quite exhausting. So we've been doing a ton of stuff on the house. Mostly the guys did a lot of sort of bespoke shelving and working with timber and all of that stuff, which was really cool. Like I've got this beautiful shoe rack now and a couple of other bits. I have more storage for my woolen sweaters, which is great because some of them currently live downstairs because we didn't have enough space in our wardrobe, and a lot of them are still in their vacuum bags over summer, but eventually summer's going to finish, so then I have somewhere now to put my sweaters, which I am really, really excited about. Yeah, we've got new lamps, we've done like random jobs around the house, but the lamps I was really, really excited about as well. We were gonna paint our rendering, but it turns out because it was too hot, our stupid rendering cracked. So now we have to get that fixed, which honestly, I am so over it. Like once we have this finished, I never want to talk about rendering ever again for the rest of my life. I am so sick of our external render issues. So yeah, a little bit of a step backward there. We are also getting new heating in 2 weeks, I think. So we're gonna, you know, get a whole new boiler, and of course it has to go in a different place because the place where it was before apparently isn't where it should be. So they're essentially going to take apart our entire house again, and I think it'll take 3 or 4 days, and it'll be 3 or 4 days of builders and no hot water, and I am not looking forward to this, especially not with a 2-year-old. But hey ho, yeah. I'm just hoping that one day, like all the big issues at least, will just stop and we'll be okay. The pigeons have also tried to come back, and I am also refusing them to come back. So we're fighting that fight again, but I think we're okay. Just trying to think what else I've been doing in terms of crafting. I've been sorting a lot of stuff. I've been showing a few of like the tiny baby knits to my son, which was really, really funny. He thought they were so cute. He's like obsessed with everything baby at the moment, which is no hint at anything. He's just been interested, and then we've been going through our wardrobes before you know, redoing them and figuring out shelving. So I've taken out a few of like the tiny baby knits to put them in vacuum bags as well, just to keep them safe. And he really enjoyed that, and it was very cute to see. And obviously it's crazy to think like he's so big now, and he used to fit into these like tiny little flax sweaters and so on. So that was really fun actually last weekend as well. Yeah, I feel like I'm just getting really, really hot in my craft room now. It's just been the weirdest weather, but it's quite warm in here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let you guys go. But I hope you still enjoyed this episode. I realized there were a couple of cuts in here, and I feel like I probably wasn't the most prepared, but I just wanted to, you know, get a little knitty episode out into the world. And for me, I think that's why I usually podcast every week. Then it's just much less overwhelming, and I can have shorter podcast episodes, and I don't have so much. But when I have all the stuff and all these types of yarn and wool and projects everywhere, I just get overwhelmed, and then I find it much harder to keep this short and concise, which is my goal. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this podcast. I hope wherever you are in the world, you're doing well and you have some knits or crafts to keep you company. I hope you're healthy, I hope you're safe, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Happy knitting. Bye!